the starting pitching staff, a couple of guys that had really strong years were Joaquin Andujar and Bob Forsch. Can you talk about the starting staff and those two guys in particular?
Well, Joaquin was this hot-blooded Dominican. He was some character. We had more fun with him. He was a little on the sensitive side, but you find out early on if you're sensitive in a baseball locker room, you're going to learn how to get over it in a hurry. And Joaquin was our ace. He had electric stuff, and he was a guy I think that we depended on, and he actually started Game 7 of the World Series. And so he was our dominant starter. Bob Forshie was just sort of that steady number 2 guy that you could depend on. He had a great run in the championship series against the Braves that year. So they were our 2 dominant ones. And we picked up Dave LaPointe, a left-hander, in a trade with the Brewers. There was that sort of Fingers, David Green. There were a lot of bodies involved in it. But we got David LaPointe. He was a little on the chunky side. His nickname was Wimpy. But he did a great job for us. And then a young man that was sort of my protege, and has gone on to have a terrific career as a college coach at Yale, and that was John Stuper. So we had a dominant starter in Andujar, and then the other starters were solid. And I think Whitey's philosophy was, get me 10 singles, and we'll steal enough bases to score enough runs. And if we have the lead after 6, we're not going to lose very often. I don't know our exact record, but I want to say maybe it was about 90-1 if we had the lead after 6 innings.
That's great. At what point in the season did the feeling in the clubhouse become, we're making the playoffs, this is a lock?
I think the big series was early in September. We had a couple of rainouts early in the year, and we had a 5-game series against the Mets. And we had come from Philadelphia, and I used to live outside the Philadelphia area from my Phillies days, and I would ride into the stadium with Mike Schmidt. And Schmitty was saying, man, I'm worried about the Expos. You know, they got Dawson, Valentine, and Carter, and they had a great team, and the Phillies thought they had a great team. And I said, Schmitty, you better start worrying about us, because we don't have that explosive offense, but we don't make any mistakes. We're tight at the end of the game in the bullpen. We can steal bases. So we went into Shea Stadium for a 5-gamer with the Mets, and I believe we swept all 5. And I think that's when we sort of had the feeling that we're going to go ahead and win this thing.
You faced the Braves in the championship series. They sort of slid into the postseason. They started out really hot and faltered late in the year. What was the scouting report on the Braves? And talk about the sweep and how you dealt with them so easily.
Well, I think psychologically we had a nice advantage going into postseason play because they drummed us pretty good during the year. I think they won 9 of the 12 meetings we had during the season. But at the end of the year, they were sort of limping in, and I think it really went down to the last day when I believe Joe Morgan hit a home run off Terry Forster up in Candlestick Park, and that assured the Braves of winning. And they had no time to go home then. They came right from the West Coast into St. Louis to play us. In those days, it was best 3 out of 5. Necro started Game 1. We had a rain out. They lost him for a day. There are a lot of things that happened to our advantage in that series, and I just think we had a much better feeling about going in against the Braves in the postseason than we did during the regular season. Confident that we'll win Game 7. That's the way those things usually work out psychologically. And so John pitched one of the great performances in Game 6 because that game took about 5 to 6 hours to complete. There were numerous rain delays, and I was warming up in the bullpen because when John went back out, if he stiffened up or something after an hour's rest, then I was going to be the guy to go in. We scored a lot of. I think we ended up winning the game 13-2, and John pitched all 9 innings, and that was obviously the turning point and the great performance that allowed us to go into Game 7 and ultimately win.